Today we're going to talk about a Nissan Frontier pickup truck. Often the forgotten pickup truck. They can be very good trucks to buy used. Now the Frontier started out as the replacement for the old Nissan hard body that had little 4 cylinders. They could run forever just like the little bitty Toyota pickup trucks, right? When they started making the Frontiers, they added one big thing. And here it is under the hood. Nissan V6 engine. You can carry, you can tow. They're very good engines. The new ones put over 300 horsepower. They are screaming motors. They're very reliable. Instead of the hard body, which is a little truck, they could last a long time just like a Toyota Tacoma, but they're kind of underpowered. These are not underpowered. Now, this is an older one, and unfortunately, it's still got a rubber timing belt in it. Modern ones have timing chains in them. Well, he just had this replaced, mainly because of the age, and it's got almost 100,000 miles. It's 96,000 miles. If that rubber belt breaks, pistons hit the valves, goodbye engine. So he had that changed out, so he's not going to have to worry about it. It's only a problem if you don't take care of it. It gets old and rotten and cracks and breaks, and there goes your engine. So if you're looking at one of these, if it's got a timing chain, you don't have to think about it. But if it's got a belt, good idea to change it if it's got 100,000 miles, or if it's 8-10 years old. That's a good thing to do. Over the course of time, the back of the frame rotted. You can see here where they've done welding. You did have to have this replaced because it did rot away. Toyota had the same problem with the Tacomas and some of the Tundras. So if you're looking at one of these used, definitely check the frame. Now there's a lot of superficial rust here, but it's still solid. I'd sand all that down and recoat it myself just to make it last longer. Make excellent work trucks because they got full-size beds. Yeah, the plastic fades away. Plastic liner's still good on it. They're great for hauling stuff. He's never towed with it. But if you want to tow, this baby can tow 6,300 with their automatic transmission, 6,500 if you have a manual. And he was smart, he bought it used. Here's the thing. People I say, Scotty, I want to get a Toyota Tacoma or a Toyota Tundra, but the prices are so insanely high. People are now paying more for used Tacomas than a new one goes for in many cases. You got a good price on this years ago, and it's been a good truck. You're going to find a much better price on a Frontier than you are on a Tacoma or a Tundra. For sure. That's just how it goes. The Toyotas, people like them, prices go up, they just start charging more and more and more. But these are solid trucks. It's not like they're problematical trucks. This is a 4x4 off-road. Ironically enough, the guy's never taken it off-road, but he uses it in Connecticut in the winter. He says it's a beast. He can get through all kinds of snow with it. And unlike the front-wheel drive Jatco transmissions, his grandmother had a Sentra in 2001. Tranny went out at like 70,000 miles. This is a rear-wheel drive transmission. And for my 53 years experience of working on cars, rarely do I see one of these Nissan rear-wheel drive transmissions break down. They make them better. They're kind of like old American cars. Americans made great transmissions for rear-wheel drive, but when they started to make front-wheel drives, they all fell apart. Didn't matter if it was Ford, GM, Chrysler, they were never any good at making front-wheel drive transmissions. Let's start it up and listen to it. Starts right up, it sounds pretty good. You just hear the valves and the cams rolling a little. Any engine is going to make a little bit of noise. It's not going to be perfect, but this one is in decent shape. Well, all the cars with these plastic headlamps are going to fog. You can polish those up if you want or buy aftermarket ones cheaply enough. But the 4-wheel drive still works perfectly fine. He's had no problems with that. You get the old scan tool out. Let's check this baby out. And here we go. It's going through everything. System diagnosis, 16 pin. It's 1% done. This might going to take a while. Well, while we're waiting for it to load, because it is older, he did have to replace the catalytic converter. Not because it tripped the catalytic converter code, because it rusted out. Nissan has a history of making crappy catalytic converters. All my customers with Nissans over the course of time, and Infiniti, same company, you got to buy catalytic converters because they just put cheap ones on. It's just the company went a little bit too cheap. Renault took over Nissan in 2000. The quality started to go down, and this is a 2003. It was after that, and he had to replace the catalytic converter because it just rotted away. It was so cheaply made. So watch out for stuff like that. And so far, you got a bunch of greens. Now, maybe an old vehicle, but everything was green except for the ABS system. Who really cares about that? But we'll see what it is. It says the front left-hand sensor has a problem. Yeah, the problem is it's 19 years old. When they get to be this old, and especially with rust, but it shows how well made this particular truck was. That was the only problem. We'll look at live data. It's hiding here somewhere. There it is. And here we go. We'll start looking to see if anything's weird. That's all green. And everything else is good too. Blue is the same as green. It means good. If it gets red, got a problem. They're all perfectly clean. We can feel a slight roll in the idle, and as you can see, the oxygen sensor on bank 1 and bank 2, they're slightly off. They're off by a tiny bit. It's not going to trip a code because it's got to be off 20% or more, and it's only off 0.21 of 1%, so that's not bad, but it shows that one side versus the other isn't exactly perfect. And from my experience with these, often the intake manifold will have a tiny leak on one side, not in the other, or one fuel injector's running a little bit off from the others. You could try putting a little fuel injector cleaner in it, but it runs perfectly fine. Most people aren't going to care about that. If it had been 5%, 10%, then you start thinking, but that's such a low percent, it really doesn't matter. Now as we close the door, got a nice solid sound, but got manual door locks. And for those of you who are young and don't understand, it has hand crank windows. Look at that. It's nice and high up in the air. Got that powerful V6 engine in it. It's still a very reliable truck. So we'll try the old engine out. It's got plenty of horsepower in it. No problem with that. As you can see, it still shifts really smooth. It still runs great. And yeah, it did have frame problems. So if you're looking at one of these used, look at the frame. Get under there. Check the frame out. Get a hammer. If it goes conk, conk, great. If it goes crunch, crunch, don't buy it. You don't want to mess with one with a rotten frame. But from my experience of these things, it's mainly up north where they rot. Because I never saw one in Texas or New Mexico or California that had a rotten frame on it. It's the salt on the road that they use in the winter here. And anything that's a little bit weak, it accentuates the rust and makes them rot out faster. So if you're disgusted by the high price of used Toyota pickup trucks, maybe try to get a Nissan Frontier used pickup truck. They can still be pretty good trucks and you can get them a whole bunch cheaper. A 95 F-150 that the guy's completely done over. Back in the day when men were men and trucks were trucks, Ford still makes 90% of their profit. On the F-150 line, they make about 10 grand for each one they sold, and they sell a whole bunch of the F-150 lines. And this thing still runs great, which is a good reason to tell people, you look at the price of a new F-150 loaded, some of them are $90,000. Maybe do what this guy did and get an old beat up one and fix it up like he has. All right, you might think, my God, he spent a fortune on this thing. He's got 6 grand in this thing. He bought it for only 1,500 bucks ages ago, and he's done it over. Now, he's done it himself, and he did a good job, but look at that. Something that looks like this, and he's got 6 grand in it. I mean, now, he looked all around. The bed was crap. This bed came from, I believe, Georgia, from down south. They made so many of these things. You're going to get parts all over the place. And check it out. This is a real pickup truck. Look at the size of that bed. This isn't a toy with a little short bed. It's a real work bed. Why not fix an old one? Now, after this video is done and edited, I'm sure the guy's going to get a million calls from people who will want to buy the truck from you. I should have told you, well, you know, he's got 50 grand in this truck. Somebody would offer him 50 grand. I can guarantee you they would, because they like classic trucks. But be that as it may, that's all he's got in this thing, 5 grand. Still an amazing truck. Why? Because Ford makes so many of these, you can get parts anywhere. What he's got here, the only thing he's done, he took the engine apart and put new rod bearings. The rod bearings aren't that bad. This is the part that goes in the block, and then the rod's inside here, so it lubricates them. There's oil inside here, and they're really not in all that bad shape, but everything was still repairable. Parts are still available, and when we look under the hood, okay, it's a nice V8 engine. One of the best they ever made. Being a 95, it's still electronic fuel injection. It's not like you gotta mess with the carburetor. And being a push rod engine, they can last basically forever. They have all the main electronics, as you can see. It has a distributor to make spark. They last a really long time. They're very easy to work on, and parts are totally available. You can see he's replaced the air conditioning compressor, but you can still get new parts for these things, and they are not all that expensive. Even Ford got cheap. It's a 95. Yes, they even had plastic radiators back then because it's cheaper to make plastic radiators. Of course, made out of aluminum, and he's done the whole front over. Look at that chrome. Now, isn't that impressive? I mean, that's what trucks are supposed to look like. And you know what it is? It's real chrome on metal. Look, it's not plastic. All right, so let's start this thing up. Still got the original transmission and everything. Sounds like a Ford V8, all right. Nice V8 rumble. It does have airbags, believe it or not. I don't know if I trust him now. He did upgrade the sound system. Put some big amps in it. Because he didn't like the crappy radio, but it still has AC, it still works. He's put some nice insulation on here, and he's done these seats over. He got them at Rock Auto, put them on the shelf. Look, they really look nice. That's the advantage. We're getting an F-150. They made so many. They sold so many. He got the whole bed from Georgia, from down south, so they don't rot. These things are eminent rebuildable for low price, including what he bought this thing for. He's got $5 grand in this thing for a beautiful truck like this. You could buy like 12 or 13 of these, or what he's got in it, for one brand new one. And let me tell you, I can guarantee you this will outlast the new ones because push-rod engine, simpler. They generally last a lot longer. Down in the middle where it's lubricated with oil, not on the very top where every time you start it, the overhead cams start up there, have a little bit of wear on them. Now, what I got against this is what you can't bypass the way they build them. My grandfather called it a plumber's nightmare. This one does have a lot of anti-pollution equipment on that they didn't used to have. But it's a 95. It's old. Almost every state it is grandfathered in, and it does not have emissions inspecting, even on the East Coast. You get the one advantage. You get an old vehicle like this, and you fix it all up. You don't have to deal with any of that crap. Yeah, they were simpler too, so they were easier to fix. But you don't have to deal with any of it because they're grandfathered in. Normally on one of these northern trucks, you're going to expect the bottom to be rotting away. But you can see, he's done it all over, and he's used special paint all over to keep it from rotting and stuff. This is a four-wheel drive truck too. This isn't even a basic truck. This is their top of the line F-150 back in those days. The only problem he's having is these twin I-beam suspensions are really hard to align, and he can't find anybody that knows how to align them anymore because it's such an antique design. Now he's got so tired of people not doing it right, he's gotten his own parts for adjusting the front end, and he does it using his phone with a protractor and just a yardstick to measure stuff, and he's got it pretty close. Most of these guys today don't even know what the stuff is. What's that, they'd say. Now, of course, trucks are gas hogs. He says on the highway he gets about 15 miles a gallon. But let's put on our thinking caps, okay? This is a 95. If you saw the video I made with the brand new 2023 Toyota Tundra, they gave up with the V8. They went to a V6 twin turbo, and the one that the guy brought me, hybrid extra. Now, it's not a strong hybrid, it's a mild hybrid, but still, it's hybrid, right? He got 19 miles a gallon. Okay, 95, 2023. That's a long time. And if all they could do is a V8, dump it down to a twin turbo 6 with hybrid, and only get 2 miles a gallon better on the highway, I gotta say something. Man alive, you engineers, you got your heads up something. You think after all those years you could get phenomenal, but you can't if you have a heavy truck. This is a heavy truck. The Toyota Tundra is a heavy truck. Whether it's got a V8 or a V6, it is still a heavy truck. And the fact that this gets only a few miles a gallon less than all that technology that they threw in, and this is still all original and going strong from 95. Four-wheel drive system is the way they used to make them. Check it out. There it is. There's the shift lever, right? So you can change four-wheel low, four-wheel high, neutral, right? There it is. Your hand operates it. The computer module went bad. And on the Ford, the computer modules go bad all the time in the late model ones, right? Or the computer didn't sense it right. Or the shaft, the motor's not strong enough, it broke. Now you got to replace the whole thing. We don't know what's wrong with it. It's just stuck in four-wheel drive, right? It's so much technology. This is so simple. It's either shoved in or it's pulled out, right? It's pretty simple to do. I don't know. I guess people are so lazy. You'd think there would be guys out there that would still want a system like this because it's foolproof, right? It's not, oh, you just get in and push a button and away you go, right? Well, the push button one's break. It's still going down the road, and it probably will be going down the road forever the way he takes care of it. It's not going to rot away. He sealed it all. Now, he did one thing that if you're ever going to do one of these, I advise doing. He got rid of those stupid automatic hubs and has manual lockers. So he locks them in, he locks them out by hand. If you're in that much of a hurry that you got to push a button, you can't get out and turn them on, you're in too much of a hurry. Okay, so this is a serious four-wheel drive vehicle. This isn't for driving your kids to the soccer match. I guess that's the problem. Back then, men were men and trucks are truck. Well, I guess trucks aren't trucks anymore and men aren't men anymore either. What's happening to this world? Let's take it for a spin. See if I'm gonna eat my words or not. It's got a backup camera, of course. He added the backup camera they didn't have in 95, just like these nice dash. Look, dash designs. It looks nice. And we go over the bump with no problems at all. Look, the original sliding window. It's still here. Here we go. Let's see how this thing can go. Hey, hey, hey. This is before traction control, baby. You can do burnouts in it. Truthfully, I would rather have this than the $80,000 new one. Knowing how long it'd last, how long I could fix it all I wanted, and it's got more class anyways. So there it is, a beautiful F-150 XLT. Guy did all the work himself. He's only got $5 grand in this beautiful truck. It's gonna have tons of life left in it. Anything, as he says, can be fixed cheaply. The parts are cheap. You look around, there's so many aftermarket parts for these things, and I can guarantee you this thing is going to be rolling down the road when those new $80,000, $90,000 ones start falling apart because the electronics break or they're going to rust out. The transmission's going to go out. Those ridiculous 10-speed automatics that cost a fortune. Then people would just junk the things. If you can find a truck like this, hey, maybe you'll offer him a bunch of money for it and he'll sell it to you. Who knows? But I don't think so. It's his project, and it seems to me the way he was talking to me that this is the last project he's going to do. So I don't think he's going to sell it to anybody. The Toyota Tacoma 4x4, you know the thing's going to last. Not that many people want standards anymore, but this guy bought it used. He looked around, and after a month, he found it. A 6-speed manual transmission Tacoma. Now, as you can see, it's 4-wheel drive, but he doesn't take it off-road. Now, he's a homeowner, so he's got a small trailer, and he uses it for bringing all the crap that he needs from Home Depot and stuff. He's not one of these wild, crazy off-roaders, you know, who's going to be climbing over boulders. You can to some extent, but of course, they last a lot longer when you keep them on the road. Now, mechanically, he changed the oil and filter. That's pretty much it. Now, he's upgraded to LEDs, and anybody who's an audiophile knows Toyota stereos pretty much suck. So he put a fancy sound system in it. Now, I do have to say, the only good system I ever saw was one of my wife's Lexus, and that's got the top of the line 12 speaker system that they put in the Lexuses. But the Toyota systems, yeah, they're kind of weak, so he put a really good sound system, but he didn't have to do any work in 2 years. He bought it used 2 years ago. Of course, the Toyota, you know, they're going to break down very often. Change the battery. Toyota batteries are somewhat weak, and you can see it's a northern car, so all the stuff's going to have a little bit of pitting on it. That doesn't mean anything. What I care about is the undercarriage, and you can see this thing's clean as a whistle. He takes care of it. Now, it came with these rims and these tires. They're excellent. They're very good looking pickup trucks. Toyota's gone a long way. He's a serious driver. Real trucks don't ship themselves. Now, it's got a nice black and chrome interior. These things, basically, they're gonna run forever. They're a lot more comfy than they used to be. The 4-wheel drive is all electronic. 2-wheel drive, 4-wheel high, 4-wheel low. Simple to do. And even though I'm a fan of the old-fashioned ones where you had a real shifter, you shifted it by hand, well, they really don't make them like that anymore. And the Toyota electronics are pretty reliable. I don't see them breaking down. Now, the owner just told me, well, he did more than just change the engine oil. He also changed the transmission oil, the diff oil, and the transfer case oil. Changing the oils, that's all you need to do on these Toyotas. They can just last so long. Now, especially in his case, he's got a 4-wheel drive system, but he's not taking it off-road. He's a homeowner. He uses it for pulling stuff around. He's not going to beat it all up. You can beat any vehicle up. My grandson almost bought a 4-wheel drive Tundra until I went with him and checked it out and found out that the transmission was completely going out with a bunch of pending codes that they had previously erased before they tried selling it to him. You can beat anything if you take it off-road. If you don't take it off-road, hey, they can last forever. He's got his own real key. He didn't like the fancy one with the buttons in it. He's got a remote over here. Simplicity. Start her up. It's a Toyota, you know, it's going to start up. Nice smooth engine. And it's the fancy one, so it's got the sliding rear windows on it, just like a Ford. Whee! Bunch of power locks off to get power. Check it out. Seats look beautiful, right? These are seat covers he put on himself. Those are beautiful seat covers. Now, he doesn't want kids to kick the back of the seat because he has kids, so He's got these Innova covers for the back. That's so the kids don't kick him. But he's going to look on his phone. He bought it on Amazon, and they're called Dr. Carnow's, and they're $279 for a pair. Now, some people say, oh, that's too much. They look like factory leather seats. You just price reupholstering a seat and see what it's going to cost you. And then you look at these, reupholstering them as you buy them, and then you take them off and you flop the new ones on. Not only do these car seats look good, they feel good because they're padded inside. Now I'm thinking about buying a pair of them. Now, it wasn't just the front seats. For the $279, you got front and back. Look at these back ones. They also fit perfectly. I'm impressed. I'm really impressed. We'll do a little diagnosis. I'm sure nothing's wrong, but an auto scan. The important stuff here, there's no DTCs, but there's a bunch of little squirrely ones. Okay, front recognition camera. Let's see what that is. Okay, it says that the camera's dirty. And I get this more often than not. Understand something. You get these modern cars, they got these vehicle assistants for lane changing, all that crap. Well, what do they use? Cameras. What happens to cameras? Now it's beeping at me. What happens to cameras? Cameras get dirty. I guess it didn't like the idea that I knew it was dirty. So you do have to clean your cars and pay attention to the little camera ports and clean them good. Otherwise, the systems get squirrely and they trip these dumb codes. We got the lane keeping assist, departure alert. We'll look at that one too. Communication with control body module is lost. A lot of these things will trip when you change the battery in a car and nobody bothers flipping them over. So, in this case, we're going to erase these dumb codes and take it for a road test. So you can see they're all gone. So let's look at some live data here. It's only got 61,000 miles on it. There it is, 61,772. Battery voltage is fine. Start looking through all the data, see if anything looks squirrely. The injection switching state. Ratio, look, 0.00. You can't get any better than that. And that's the worst value. It would show if once in a while it was off a little to show you the worst one, it's still at 0. Those codes to come back, as you can see, the battery cable was disconnected 3,133 kilometers ago. And nobody reset anything, so I'm assuming that's why it had those codes. We'll find when we come back. Of all cylinders exactly the same. 51, 199, all 6 of them. It's running perfectly smooth. And of course the misfire is 0, 0, 0, 0. All 6 of them are 0. The vapor pressure on the anti-pollution pump. So of course all the data is fantastic. Let's take it for a road test. Now it's ultra smooth just sitting here. It has 4-wheel drive, so we can get way over this hump with no problems at all. Whee! Take it up to the highway. And the owner told me to lean on it, so we're going to lean on it when we get to the top. Clear on one side, not on the other. All right. Here comes our opening. Here we go. This thing goes. Smooth shifting, because I'm shifting it myself. It's a standard transmission, or manual, I should say. Corner's perfectly fine. Isn't too overly trucky. Sure, it's high up in the air, but it still has pretty good handle. No problem at all driving it with one hand on the camera and one for shifting. Nice stable tracking, and when you want to go, you just step on the gas. Decent sounding V6 too, doesn't sound wimpy. Now my son's got the same version of this truck, just a couple years newer, but this is more fun to drive because it does have a 6-speed manual transmission. And it is quite a bit zippier, I do have to say. This thing is more of a speed hauler. So let's check out what's left. I said I was going to check for trouble codes, right? Because I erased them all since the battery had been changed in. Well, no trouble codes, they're all gone. So here we have it. A guy who knows trucks. He drives an oil tanker, those big ones that bring the gasoline to the gas stations for a living. But what did he buy when he wanted a truck? He bought this Tacoma 4-wheel drive with a 6-speed transmission on it, and he loves it. I gotta say, it was more fun than driving my son's because of that manual transmission. Just gives it more oomph. You feel like you have more control driving it that way. After all, it is 4-wheel drive if you want to put it in 4-wheel drive, and you really are better off with a standard transmission when you're doing off-roading. I mean, they have automatics set to do all kinds of tricky things, but nothing works the same as different gears and a clutch you can control and feather yourself. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.